So the Pittsburgh Steelers, they just got some very enticing news. Is that a weird title? I'm not sure, but there might be a possible great fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers following this George Pickens trade that we've all been talking about. There's an expected wide receiver move coming soon. Ian Rappaport agrees. This is straight from Rappaport. I would be surprised if the Steelers are done at the wide receiver position. They're likely to at least sign one more, and there are a couple talented wide receivers still on the market. And it doesn't need to cost draft capital. That's a really good thing. There's a wide receiver available who was just released by the Jacksonville Jaguars, Gabe Davis. He just hit the open market after being released. And a little on Davis, if you guys don't know, he absolutely thrived as a Buffalo Bill. He just turned 26 years old, and I think he's a really great fit in Arthur Smith's offense. What do you guys think? Should Pittsburgh be all in on this player? And in this video, I want to talk about his possible fit, and in general, where do we go from here at wide receiver? But first, in the comments today, who's the Steeler from your childhood when you first started watching football that made you a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers? I'd be really interested in your responses, especially as an outsider to your team. This could be a lot of fun. So let's make it a little weird. Pick a guy that's a little off the wall that most of us might not be thinking about. So let's get back to Gabe Davis. What this team is lacking as Pittsburgh Steelers fans, you guys, what this team is lacking is a possible field stretcher and also a guy that just racks up yak yardage after the catch. Big plays are Gabe Davis's specialty from his time with the Buffalo Bills. So unless the Steelers are content with the way things look right now, I don't think they should be. They're going to sign or trade for a veteran wide receiver in the coming days, in the coming weeks. Man, even in the coming months. I hope it doesn't take that long. But the question is this the best player to take a flyer on? You're looking at Jacksonville just releasing the guy, and this is a player who they signed last year to a 3-year, $39 million deal. It didn't work out well for the Jaguars, and they released him early. And also his performance on the field, he caught only 20 passes for 239 yards, 2 scores. That's in 10 games played. And this is also after a new regime has taken over the team. Travis Hunter was added. Brian Thomas Jr. actually absolutely balled out last year. So granted, not a great year for Davis, but this was also just a dumpster fire of a team. Trevor Lawrence only played 10 games. They only won 4 games, and we're looking at Davis being fully recovered from a meniscus injury that ended up ending his season. Why not bring him in if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers? He's still only 26 years old, and he was turning into an absolute beast in Buffalo. Obviously, Jacksonville wasn't a good fit. So a little background on him, a 4th-round pick in 2020, 2,730 yards, 27 touchdowns. And what are you looking for in big playability to open this offense? I think this guy is it. Yes, no matter who the quarterback is, but the Pittsburgh Steelers need some big play ability out of their wide receivers outside of DK Metcalf. And he's really famous for his playoff performance against the Chiefs as well. You guys know this. This was back in 2021, and this is what really put his name on the map. And this also shows that he has big play ability. The guy had 8 catches for 201 yards and 4 touchdowns in that game. And he was also pretty clutch, too, because 2 of those scores were in the final 2 minutes of the game. Just an absolutely sick performance. So a question you might be asking, could this be another example of Josh Allen getting career years out of a wide receiver, and then they can't replicate it elsewhere? Because there's some players to consider here. You've got John Brown, you've got Cole Beasley, you've got Stephon Gibbs, you've got Gabe Davis, you can put him in here, Mac Hollins, Zay Jones. Is this a case of players balling out for Josh Allen and then never being able to be any good anywhere else? Let's be fair looking at this list, though. We've got John Brown. We've got Beasley. They both had solid careers before they played with Josh Allen. Diggs was a top-level receiver before Buffalo as well with the Minnesota Vikings. I'm not sure the narrative of these players being made by Josh Allen and not being able to be successful outside of Buffalo, I'm not sure that holds water. But if you look at it, though, Gabe Davis, since that performance in Buffalo, He hasn't really consistently done that since then. But still, this is a low-risk, potentially cheap addition for your team that can pay off big time for your Steelers, right? We're looking at great size, 6'2", 255 pounds, big playability, yak ability after the catch. I say bring him in for a prove-it deal. And let's say you don't do that. Let's say you don't bring in Gabe Davis. Let's kind of look at some trade rumors that are dependent on Aaron Rodgers still joining the team. So you've got names like New York Jets, Allen Lazard, Green Bay Packers, Romeo Doubs. Is it Dobbs? Is it Dubs? I never know. These guys have been floated as potential fits for Pittsburgh. I don't love these choices personally. You're looking at Lazard playing his entire career with Aaron Rodgers, whether that was with the Packers or the Jets. And he kind of fits the mold of a big possession receiver, a guy that can block, a guy that can create space over the middle in Arthur Smith's offense. He might be a pretty good fit, but his connection to Aaron Rodgers, that's the only reason he's on this list. Look at Aaron Rodgers. A lot of people are still expecting him to sign with the Steelers. Does that really move the needle? Does this make this team noticeably better? But bringing in a familiar face to pair with Metcalf, that absolutely might be on the table. So Allen Lazard is a possibility, only if Aaron Rodgers comes. But the player I'm thinking about is, what about Keenan Allen? Are we missing something by not including Keenan Allen in this conversation? Because isn't he, out of all these players, isn't he the most ideal fit alongside Metcalf? He's a route running guy that the Steelers need. He can run every route in the playbook. He can actually teach running every route in the playbook for these young players. And he's also a vertical stretch player. He's the bucket getter on money downs, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. He should be the primary concern possibly for Pittsburgh to bring in. He's been waiting on the free agent market for quite a long time. He could be a cheap get. That could be the move to make, because Keenan Allen obviously was not done in Chicago last year. He still had like 700 yards. He still had a lot of catches. He still had 7 or 8 touchdowns. You guys can check me on that. But maybe Keenan Allen is the perfect signing for this offense, regardless of who's there at quarterback, especially if Mason Rudolph is there, because I would love to see, in my eyes, I think Keenan Allen might be the perfect fit. Put him opposite DK Metcalf. And then the player that nobody's talking about, Roman Wilson. I think it's being forgotten what his draft profile was and who the Pittsburgh Steelers thought that they were getting when they brought him into Pittsburgh last year. I want to see how he develops as your slot receiver. And in order to do that, we need a dependable, a guy who's been there, done that, perhaps a veteran like Keenan Allen to pair up with DK Metcalf, have him sign a 1-year prove-it deal or a 1-year throwaway deal. You can probably get him for pretty cheap. So then Roman Wilson can really learn the game, learn the pro game as a slot receiver, and then possibly he could be your answer at number 2. Just a thought there. Let me know in the comments. You guys have been great. I'll continue to be here with Pittsburgh Steelers news on the daily, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. See you.